Imagine highly productive, good quality pastures in every paddock of your farm. Achieving this is possible, but firstly, identify why pasture is not performing in a paddock, and secondly, conduct a cost-benefit analysis to ensure that there will be a net benefit from renewing pastures. In the calculator, information may be added or edited in the white cells. The first part of the calculator is aimed to stimulate the thinking required about poor pasture performance in a paddock and to identify any remedial action required for future highly productive pasture. This section does not affect the cost-benefit analysis. Work through each section on this page and make notes or highlight options that may help diagnose existing problems with pasture performance. Completing the pasture establishment cost section requires care if you are to get a fair and reliable result from the cost-benefit calculation. The calculator is designed to cater for a range of cultivation, sowing and spraying options, for example ground, aerial or direct drill, so just complete the sections relevant to the particular paddock that you are looking to renew. Completing the name and paddock details at the start will provide a reference for the future. The first item is desiccation spray. In some situations, this may not be part of the process, so it can be skipped over. If it is a part of the process, then type in the name of the chemicals that will be used, for example glyphosate, the rate per hectare and the cost per litre. This will automatically calculate the cost per hectare. Repeat if a second chemical is being used for weed control, and also complete the sections for insecticide and penetrant if these are also being used. The final line under desiccation spray is for the cost of application per hectare. The next item is cultivation. Again, if this is not part of your process, it can be skipped. Otherwise, complete the number of passes and the cost per pass for each operation. The names of the operations can be edited if required. If sowing the seed requires a separate pass, include the cost per hectare in the box provided. In the section for seed costs, this can be itemised and detailed for future reference, or the total mix may be included in one line. This is a good place to record what cultivar and endophyte have been sown. This will be an individual choice, but either way both the sowing rate and the seed cost need to be completed on each line to result in the cost per hectare being calculated on the right-hand side. The remaining sections include slug bait, insecticide, fertiliser, post-emergent weed spray, insecticide and nitrogen. Only complete those required, putting figures for the rate per hectare and the cost per kilogram for materials and a cost per hectare for the application. This section only applies if pasture is taken out of production for renewal purposes at a time when the feed is valuable and there is an identifiable cost to the farming system. To complete this section, type the months during which the paddock will not be available for grazing. Alongside each month, type the daily pasture growth rate and the number of days in the month for which the paddock is not grazable. Lastly, enter the cost of purchasing replacement feed in cents per kilogram of dry matter. The first part in this section requires information which is important for the final result, but is often hard to quantify. Care must be taken in estimating the expected annual pasture yields for the old pasture and the new pasture. Some guidelines are provided in the white panel on the right-hand side of the calculator. Enter the milk solids price. If the current year's price is unusually high or low, then use a typical or long-term average price. Also, complete the costs of extra production cell. In most cases, extra pasture production results in more cows being carried or more days in milk, hence extra operating costs. Estimate the extra costs as a proportion of the extra income. Once the milk solids and extra cost figures have been edited, the only remaining item is to estimate the relative pasture yield for the new pasture for the next 5 years. Generally, this is in relation to the first year being the highest production, or 100%, and the yield declines due to loss of population and the invasion of poorer producing species and weeds. Some guidelines are provided in the white panel on the right-hand side of the calculator. Once all the figures have been entered, the results in the summary box and the sensitivity analysis can be considered. The outputs include the total investment cost per hectare, the return from new pasture in year 1 in dollars per hectare, the internal rate of return on the investment over a 5-year period, and the payback period. It is possible to go back and change some of the inputs or variables to test the impact of the return on investment. This concludes our demonstration of how the calculator works for the benefit of all farmers.